Hey, book friends, in bed with a book here. If you want to know my real name, it's Stephanie. Um, Sometimes I look at screen names and I'm like, okay, but what is your name? So my name is Stephanie. Anyway, so I wanted to come on here and just give you an update on what I've been reading. My last post will tell you that I read the Kate Stewart Ravenhood series and One Last Rainy Day from the Ravenhood Legacy, and I loved all of those books. I highly recommend them. So, on the Kate Stewart train, I decided I'm out of Ravenhood books, and that makes me sad. So, let me try something else. So, I tried the book Drive by Kate Stewart. And that book is part of a duet. It's actually a 3-book series, so I'm not sure why it's a duet. But I read the first one, Drive. I listened to it on Audible, and I started listening to it while I was working, which wasn't a good idea because I get distracted and I'm not really listening to what I'm listening to. But I found myself more so interested in work than listening to the book because it was a slow start for me. I couldn't get into it in the beginning. It took me until about halfway through the book before I was on board with it. And then things started picking up. And so it wasn't really a book for me. I like things to be immediate. I'm not the person that wants to know what their present is on Christmas Day. I want to know when it's bought. I don't have patience to wait. So definitely not one of my favorite books, but it is a good book. I did decide not to go ahead and read the second book. I did like the way it ended on Drive, and so I'm gonna leave it at that for myself. Once that was done, I picked up the second book in Devil's Night series, Hideaway. And the first one is Corrupt. I did need a refresher on what Corrupt was about because I think I read it last August and just haven't gotten around to continuing the series. I like to jump around sometimes. Hideaway, fantastic. Penelope Douglas, I cannot go wrong with her. Every single one of her books that I have picked up, I have fallen in love with. Her dark romance books, I just find them from chapter 1 to the very end. They keep my attention. They keep me interested. The storylines are good. They are dark. They are smutty. They are everything one could wish for. So definitely a good book. If you haven't started the Devil Knight series, I do highly recommend it. And I look forward to picking up the third book. I think it's Kill Switch. After that, in between my dark romance books, I like to do something a little bit happy and not so dark. So I did Wild Love by Elsie Silver. This is a book that I saw in some TikTok videos, and I thought, all right, let me give her a try. It is such a sweet story. If you're looking for just straight up romance with a happily ever after, this is a book to read. Wild Love really caught my attention from the beginning, and I just kept going with it. I liked the characters, I liked the storyline, and it was just sweet all around. It wasn't, anything adventurous. It wasn't suspenseful. It was just romantic, and I really enjoyed it. Next thing I did was I read Pretty Rings and Broken Things, which is by Kat Singleton. This is the second one of her books that I've read in the past few weeks. And it is a billionaire romance. It is smutty. It's not really dark, but it is smutty, and it has a happily ever after. And the male character is what every girl wants in their fantasy. Not necessarily real life, because who meets hot billionaires that are in their 20s, right? So anyway, good book. I recommend her books. I really like her stories. They're not boring at all. They kind of just flow, and the characters are good. So pick up her books. Give them a try. Next, I decided it's time. I have seen all of these videos all over TikTok A Court of Thorns and Roses. Well, let me tell you, I've never been a fantasy person. 15 years ago, the first book I ever read cover to cover was the Twilight series. I have never, ever been a reader. It's just not my thing. I always thought it was boring. Well, turns out the books I was reading were boring, and that's why I never finished a book in my life until then. So, Twilight series, I actually liked it so much that I read this whole series 3 times during my pregnancy with my daughter. Didn't pick up a book after that until 50 Shades of Grey came out. Anyway, back to the point. Fantasy is not really my thing. I like dark. I like smutty. I don't really care about werewolves and fairies and whatever else. However, A Court of Thorns and Roses. At first, the first chapter I'm reading and I'm like, do I really want to read this? Then I just kept going and going. And by the end of the book, I actually was crying. It was actually really good. I don't even know how to put into words how I feel about it. I really enjoyed it. Now, to me, it has a happily ever after. I looked forward to book 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 to see what they're going to be about. And now I'm debating. Do I really want to spoil the ending of book 1 to have it all change in book 2? Or do I want to leave it there? So tell me, ladies, do I need to read the rest of them? Or can I just stick with the characters from book 1? I mean, changing over to Riz in book 2, okay, I secretly hoped for that in book 1. However, I don't know, I feel like I'm going to be sad. So let me know. Do I go to book 2? Do I just say the heck with everything in book 1 and move on? All right, so let me know what you think. A Court of Thorns and Roses. Obviously, it's a great book. That's why it's all over TikTok and Instagram and every other book page you read. So that's it for today. I think I'm going to start, I think it's called Binding 13 later on tonight. And we'll see how that is. All right, thanks. See you, everyone.